Modern life. Between careers, kids, and health, it can be mayhem. That's why we're here. I'm Dr. Lisa Varghese-Kroll.
And I'm Dr. Lonray Falusi. We're physicians, moms, and longtime friends who break it all down for you. Wondering how to juggle all the balls and still stay sane? Looking for advice but don't want to be overwhelmed?
Curious about how to make the most out of life for your family but enjoy it at the same time? You're in the right place. Welcome to Health and Home with the Hippocratic hosts.
On this episode, we're asking, can you outrun a bad diet? If you want to get healthy but can't quite say no to those Cheetos and Twix bars, can an intense exercise routine make up for it? We're talking to physician and weight loss coach Dr. Priyanka Venugopal, who answers that question and more. Welcome to the show, everyone. Lonray's out today, but we're both so excited to jump into this episode's burning question. Look, we've all been there. Whether you've struggled with severe weight issues or just wanted to get more serious about your health in general, at some point in that journey, you've probably had to face the fact that you might have to change something about your eating. But what if giving up junk food feels really daunting? Can you lose weight and be healthy without doing that? Our guest today is Dr. Priyanka Venugopal, an OB-GYN physician turned coach for high-achieving professional moms who want to lose weight without a calculator and create more sustainable ease at work and at home. Over 10 years, she has talked with thousands of high-achieving professional women and has gotten to the root of the high achievers' biggest obstacles in hitting goals at work and on the scale. She is based in the Washington, D.C. area, is a mama to 2 kiddos, and is the host of the Burn Stress, Lose Weight podcast, where she shares tangible skills and real-life experiences of how the high achiever can overcome their obstacles to create more of the life they want in a body they feel comfortable in. Welcome, Dr. Priyanka Venugopal.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
So we're so excited to have you as well, because this is one of those things where it affects all of us to different degrees, but it is something that all of us have experienced in one way or another. So before we jump right into it, can you tell us a little bit about your story, how you got to where you are?
Yeah, absolutely. So hello, for anyone that is new to me, my name is Priyanka. I'm an OB-GYN it feels like my past life right now, but I'm an OB-GYN and now I am a health coach. I basically am a stress and weight loss coach for professional working moms. And my journey here, this was never anything I ever planned. I mean, anyone that has ever gone to medical school or gone through like the rigors of residency, you never imagine that you're ever going to leave medicine.
Right.
But for me, a lot of my story, and I'm excited to share it here, really started because I was an overweight physician. I was an overweight physician, an expert in women's health, an OB-GYN that, logically knew what to do. Like we all tell ourselves, if you're listening to this, you're a smart person, you know what to do, but there was something that just wasn't working. And I remember this was back in 2018, 2019. I had a 3-year-old son, 6-month-old daughter at the time. And I just felt like my life is passing me by. I have worked decades hard through, from like the age of 6. I remember being that girl front of the classroom, raising her hand. And I've always been that kid who just worked so hard. And I'm like, to what end? To what end have I been pushing myself through school and academics and of course, medical school and residency? If I'm waking up, I'm now in my mid to late 30s, and I'm feeling this sense of just slightly dissatisfaction. Nothing terrible on paper, a really good life, supportive husband, these 2 healthy kids, a practice that truly was a good practice to work in. And yet I'm just feeling dissatisfied and uncomfortable in my body. I was a little over 200 pounds at the time. And I had done all of the quote unquote diets. You name the gimmick or the fad, counting calories, counting points, tracking on my Fitness Pal, incessantly exercising like 6 days a week. And I mean, if you name it, I have probably tried it, and it would work for short periods of time, but then it wouldn't last. And so I had been on this roller coaster for forever, for as long as I can remember. And I remember just thinking one day, this was in the spring of 2019, I'm really frustrated. There has to be something else. This cannot be it. And that was when I started really a lot of my own personal journey. I discovered coaching at the time through a podcast like this. And I realized that not only was I missing certain, nutritional science decisions. Like I was, again, because of the fads and the diets that I had been on, I had not been optimizing nutrition science to my advantage, number one. But number two, there was a huge piece of the puzzle that I had been overlooking, which is the mindset piece. You can have the Cadillac of nutrition plans, but it is going to collect dust in a drawer if you don't have the mindset skills to put it into implementation. And so I realized, and if you are an overachiever, which I'm guessing your audience is full of overachievers, and you may or may not call yourself a perfectionist, right? Like I never called myself a perfectionist, but listen, if you're an overachiever, you're a secret perfectionist. I realized that I had this tendency of being in the planning phase a lot. I loved to plan and to look things up. And like, you should see I'm looking at my wall right now. It has like colored Post-it notes with a calendar, like color-coded highlighters.
I can picture it perfectly.
All of it. And we love it because it feels really good to have that plan. Mm-hmm. But the part that was missing for me is taking that plan and putting it into real life execution when my life felt hard. And you better believe, as a physician who deeply cares about, her patients, and I want to do a really good job. And I'm thinking about the OR tomorrow, and I'm thinking about that lab that I have to sign off on. I'm thinking about my 2 kids. My son was really challenging. I'm thinking about the fight with my husband. All of these things create, feelings of stress. And in those moments, I was not executing on the plan. And so that was really where I went on this journey of understanding how to take and claim my personal power back without blaming my circumstances. And in that journey, I lost a little over 60 pounds without the diet fads that, I think is so, I'm so glad you're having this conversation here, without the fads and the gimmicks, in a way that truly felt grounded and sustainable, and in a way that I feel so proud of showing my children. That to me is going to be the filter. Do I feel good about modeling this behavior to my children? Because how many of us remember from like the 80s and 90s, you watching maybe the adult, your mom or your aunt or a neighbor, like obsessively on the Stairmaster or like counting every point in calorie, right? So I don't want that memory for my children. And this is, again, like really been a big part of my journey. Now that's what I coach high achievers to do too.
Well, so many things. First of all, congratulations, because that is an amazing achievement that so many people strive to reach and never do. So that's huge to begin with. Second of all, what you said about modeling for our children. I always say that I really appreciate that my mom never did that, never counted calories, never like focused on our weight. But I grew up in this culture just like everyone else did. And the magazines at the supermarket did it for me. And I do not want that for my teenage daughter. And I feel like it is a little bit better for her generation. I hope I'm not fooling myself, but I do think there's a little bit more body positivity. But I absolutely see that in our generation and the lasting effects of that sort of self-hatred. And when you said the 6-year-old that was at the front of the classroom, I felt that.
That I think so many of us, right? Like I was the little people pleaser. Like, let me raise my hand, and I want the teacher to call on me, and I want her to show. I know all the answers.
Yeah, that's who goes to medical school. I think. Totally. Like, I really think we're not alone. It's really all our colleagues are like that. So I think we can really appreciate kind of where you're coming from and what led you there. So, as a coach, what are the things that you work on with your clients that might be a little bit different from a different population?
Yeah, I would actually say that when it comes to women that identify as high achievers or overachievers, and again, like that perfectionist tendency, there are a couple of key pieces that are missing from the strategy. So if you have, and here's the best news, this applies to any goal. So what we're talking about today is not just about your personal body goal or a fitness goal or a weight loss goal. This applies to professional goals. This applies to your next growth goal. And I think that all of us, again, if you identify as an overachiever, we all have growth goals. We've signed up for this life because we want bigger and really amazing things, not just for ourselves, we want to model it to our children. So what I've noticed is when most people come into their body strategy, to their weight loss strategy, it's like, if you imagine a pie, they are focusing on one slice of the pie. The one slice of the pie is, let me go to my nutritionist. I see this in like so many Facebook groups. This is why I'm using this example, which is, what is the new thing? Is it intermittent fasting? Is it no flour, no sugar? Do I have to count macros? Right. So like we're focusing on what is the plan on paper. Like maybe if I went to my nutritionist and got this PDF, then I will lose the weight.
Right.
So I want you to just see how myopic that is, right? So we come in thinking that this one piece of paper is going to help us hit our goal.
Mm-hmm.
So think of it again, like I love this visual. It's like thinking of one piece of the pie, and we will go at that one piece of pie for, right? You can make this work for a few days, maybe a few weeks. You might even start seeing results. But because we have not zoomed out and looked at the other pieces of the pie, that PDF does not stick. It does not last. And the worst part about this, and this is the part that I really focus on in coaching with my clients, is it starts to plant the seed of disbelief, of doubt, of like, can I ever do this? Will I ever figure this out? Because, the more times that you fail, we all have a past pile of fails. And our
Of
brains
course,
are hardwired for natural negative biases. We'll look back at the past and be like, see, there I go again. And the unfortunate reality is when we have that piecemeal approach of just like, let me just go grab the next PDF, we are creating more and more disbelief because we create a lot of evidence. So a lot of what I do, the visual that I kind of think about is like, if you imagine all the pieces of the pie are coming together in a really step-by-step process where we address first and foremost, I mean, this is just day 0, nutrition science. And this will kind of speak to your idea of like, do you need to have a diet to lose the weight you want or to hit your body goals? So there has to be nutrition science to make you a fat burner that so many people are overlooking. It goes beyond just intermittent fasting and counting a calorie. 1,000 calories of Skittles is different than 1,000 calories of whole foods that is full of nutrition, right? So like it's definitely not calorie counting, right? If it was calorie counting, then I mean, we would have all
this would
already
be a
hit our
lot
body goal.
simpler. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I just think I use that example because people talk about calorie counting all the time. Calories in, calories
They do,
out.
You're right, yeah.
You need to be in a calorie deficit. And yes, that is true. And no, it is, again, really myopic. So, I think that those are the big things that I love to start my clients off with right off the bat is understanding nutrition science. What are the top 3 to 4 simple tweaks that we can make that makes you a fat burner? But then the other pieces of the pie, and this is where coaching is really essential, is understanding our real life stresses as busy professional women and how we can start to navigate those life stresses without going to food or alcohol as a break. I can't tell you, Friday nights for me, I would come home from like a busy week at the hospital, being on call, my 2 crazy kids. And the first thought that I had on Friday night was, I just deserve a break.
Right.
And my evening plop down, Netflix, glass of wine, Cool Ranch Doritos, like I don't even know. And so it's no wonder I crept up on the scale because I used food to reward myself. And this is
you were not wrong in thinking that you needed a break, though.
100%.
That is completely understandable.
100%. But what we have done, because of the way that our brains are hardwired, we go to the lowest effort option. And so when we go to the lowest effort option, I mean, the modern industrialized food industry has crafted the perfect bite.
Yeah.
It did not, this was not the case 50 years ago. Now, like if you have one bite of like, a Cool Ranch Dorito, you're going to feel a burst of flavor, the perfect crunch to savory ratio. Like your brain is just going to explode with endorphins. And so you
want
learn.
more.
Of course. And so I think that that's a big piece of it. We have hardwired food and alcohol with breaks, food and alcohol with our main source of pleasure. And so it's no wonder that we are really stuck in these habits that are sabotaging our body goals.
I totally agree. I know that Laundry and I have talked about that too, is that this is an obstacle really fighting a multi-billion-dollar industry. It's very difficult to overeat on cucumbers, right? I mean, very few people, at some point you're going to feel satiated, but that point is much, much further in the distance if it's Doritos or like a Twix. And so it's not entirely, I think there's a lot of guilt and a lot of shame, but it's not, there are a lot of really powerful interests that are, making it more difficult for us. So that being said, do you think that you can outrun a bad diet?
Right. This is a great question. So I think there's a couple of pieces to this. Outrun, like, if you can you outrun a bad diet kind of implies to me this question of like, can you go to the gym? Can you hit the treadmill and undo the damage, quote unquote, the damage with the food? You cannot. I can't tell you how many clients I've worked with that are hitting the gym. They're like clocking that hour at the gym religiously, but because their nutrition is not dialed the other 23 hours of the day, they're not getting results. And actually, in fact, they're getting really frustrated. And then they think, I just need to double down harder.
Right.
So how many of us think, right, if you don't see the results on the scale, I just need to work harder. I just need to double down more. And this is the way that we were educated in the medical field and in residency. Like if you didn't get the A, or if you didn't pass boards, or if you didn't, get into the school you want, I just need to study more. I need to work harder. That was the messaging. And if you work harder,
be something we did. Yeah.
Yeah. And the solution is work harder. And because we work harder and we get the A, our brain again learned a lesson, which is if I just worked harder, then I would have more results.
Right.
What it has created as adults who are out of the educational system is overworked women who are literally burning out, not just in their field of practice, but they're burning out as moms. We're burning out in weight loss. We're burning out in hitting goals because we're coming into hitting goals from that attitude of I just need to work more, work harder to hit this goal. When in fact, actually, if you just worked smarter in certain areas and you made more strategic decisions to support your goals, it's crazy and kind of disconcerting to think that you could actually work less if you had those right strategic decisions in place.
I love that. Working smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
I think especially after COVID, a lot of us are really thinking about that concept.
Oh, yeah.
And that it can be applied to our health and our bodies is moving, actually. So what would you say to someone who's, we all, I think, have different aspects of health or weight loss or wellness that are hardest for us. Some people, just really have a phobia of the gym, and other people, they really struggle to work activity into their day and not be sedentary. And other people, it's food. So what do you say to someone whose main struggle, their main obstacle to losing weight is the desire to not have to give up certain foods?
Yeah, I think it's a really all or nothing mindset when somebody believes I'm not allowed to eat the cupcake. I'm not allowed to eat the cookie. I'm not allowed to have that glass of wine. Like, really just think about that. We're adult women who are trying to tell ourselves, I'm not allowed to put this food in my mouth. Number one, it's a total lie. Yeah. Right? It's a total lie to ever tell yourself, I'm not allowed to eat something. We're not 5 years old. We don't have a parent telling us how to eat. But this is our monologue when it comes to hitting body goals. And so you can imagine as an adult who, by the way, is working incredibly hard. If you hear that voice in your mind, like, I'm not allowed to eat the cookie, you're going to rebel against it. There's going to come a point where you're like, oh yeah? Really? Watch me. Watch me go. And this is why you'll find yourself sabotaging your own goals because you're rebelling against that way of talking to yourself. I'm not allowed. So the first thing that I would say is that if you zoomed out and really think about the next 50 years of your life, the way that you lose weight has to be a very, very close sister to the way that you maintain it. So if you plan on never having a cookie ever again, or a cupcake ever again, or a glass of wine ever again, if you really feel like that feels good for you for the rest of your life, and I'm sure there are some people that can absolutely do that and they love it, go for it. However, if you know that you're someone that wants to enjoy cake at your best friend's birthday, or you want to enjoy a glass of wine on date night, or have that dessert when you're out with your girlfriends, you have to know how to strategically eat those foods and drink the alcohol in a way that is aligned with your goals. And I think that this really comes to overcoming the all or nothing mentality that a lot of overachievers and perfectionists have. So this is it's a hard wiring in our brain. We think that it's this like over restriction to overindulgence cycle. So what we do to hit goals, we think, remember, we have to work harder. We associate I have to work harder, which means I'm not allowed to eat any of the good food. I'm not allowed to eat any Doritos, no wine. No, I know, because I used to do this. I'm like, go to the grocery store and I'll get all the fruits and vegetables, and then they like kind of all go bad in my fridge. So we go from we restrict every single thing. And then because it's not sustainable, there's a part of your brain that is going to create a very convincing and compelling story. Like, hey, that's messed up. You're going to feel deprived. And then what you do on the other, you flip over. It's like that pendulum to overindulgence. And like a squirrel that's trying to save for winter, you're going to start to like, let me get it while I can. And so you'll overeat and overindulge in all of those foods. So what I really teach my clients how to do, and there's both strategy and mindset to this, is what I like to call crafting the third road. So if it's not all, and if it's not nothing, how do we really craft? And I'm saying craft because each human is unique, right? So the way that you eat and the way that your body physiology takes different foods and the taste buds that you like, you might like different foods, is going to be different than the next person that's listening to this podcast episode. How can we craft your way of eating that truly feels aligned with your goal, and at the same time feels really loving, feels really good? How would you want to build in that glass of wine? How do you want to build in that cookie or that piece of cake at, date night? How would you build it in? And to do that, you have to have self-trust. And to have self-trust, that means you have to put in the reps. You have to start practicing being willing to fail. And this is the part that's hard for the overachiever. You fail, you go right to see, there I go again. I'm like, yeah, this is why coaching is so essential to really hit these goals. You have to have a coach in your corner showing you your blind spots and really challenging a lot of the obstacles that you come into.
I love that you said, how can we do this in a way that's loving? Because I think that's very closely paired with sustainability. That's really the primary issue with weight loss, I think, at least in our Western culture, is sustainability. And I've had many patients and friends and loved ones who, just as you said, had great short-term results, but it's so difficult to sustain.
We sometimes think when I lose the weight that I want to lose, then I'll be happy. Then I'll feel good. Then I'll be satisfied. Then I get to be proud of myself. And it's because we have believe that hitting the goal is where our happiness is going to come from, that we are willing to do the ridiculous gimmicks and go crazy with the restriction because we want to get there so bad. And when you get to your goal weight or your goal fitness for your body, you are still going to experience the emotions of being a messy human. You're still going to have stress and overwhelm and moments of disappointment and discouragement and all of it. So if that was true, if you just believed me when I told you can hit your goal weight and still experience the messy emotions of being human, what would the impact be if you let yourself fall in love with the process and actually love the way that you eat? And there are going to be moments that are hard. I think the other piece that's really missing from most strategies is having an assessment tool. We will we'll gain a pound over the weekend and then be like, wait, okay, let me just buckle down again, without knowing what actually led to me gaining that pound over the weekend, right? So really building that into the pieces of pie that come into really having that holistic approach. And I think it has to start with reminding ourselves, if I have this goal, if I want to lose weight, I cannot hate weight loss. That is a huge one. People want to lose weight, but they hate weight loss. I'm like, good luck. Good luck trying to lose that weight. So instead, let yourself be blown away with the idea that if you want to have a goal, what if you fell in love with the goal, fell in love with the process to get there, and let your identity evolve in the process? It's not always easy, but it could be simple. I think that's what's really changed for me. And I've noticed that it's changed me as a mom. It's changed me as a partner. It changed me as a physician for sure. Just really challenging a lot of the mindset pieces that were in my way.
Wow. And I do think that's powerful because if you love how you eat, you don't need to outrun a bad diet ever.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Priyanka Venugopal. It was such a pleasure. And I really think this will be very helpful to a lot of other people. And we will share your website and your program on our website in our show notes at hippocratichost.com. And thank you again.
I love it. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks so much to Dr. Priyanka Venugopal for joining us today and sharing her expertise. To learn more about her background and coaching program, check out our show notes at hippocratichosts.com. So that's our show for today. Thank you, as always, for listening and for all your support. Please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and all other major social media platforms, and subscribe and review us in Apple Podcasts because reviewing helps other people like you find the show. And if you would like to support us with a monthly donation, just go to our website at hippocratichosts.com and click on the Become a Friend of the Show button. We'll be forever grateful. Thanks, everyone, and talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to Health at Home with the Hippocratic Hosts. Remember that all views expressed here are our own, not our employers, and all content is for informational purposes only and should not be construed as medical advice, nor the establishment of a doctor-patient relationship. Always consult your own physician or healthcare team for any medical issues.
If you enjoyed this episode, please rate us, subscribe, and tell a friend. And check out our website at www.hippocratichosts.com for show notes on this and all our episodes. Can't wait to chat with you next time.